And then he hugged another friend, and I walked over and I hugged him, and he's like, I don't even know you, and we're hugging. So the first thing we did was hug.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation. Well, it all started with an Irish man's dream to go to America, a tiger moth project, and an unlikely fandom. So about a year ago, I made a video called How I Met a Fandom, and in that video I detailed 4 crazy trips I went on, from my first time meeting Thomas fans at Tallaght to meeting the Tugs Trust guys, before finally going to America where I saw the Tiger Moth project in person live. Then through some mad coincidence, I ended up being in a documentary celebrating Thomas fans. And so today, I'm going to be reviewing that very documentary, as there's quite a lot to talk about. So, with all that out of the way, let's begin with the story of how this even happened. Now, An Unlikely Fandom is all about the adult Thomas the Tank Engine fans, a passion project created by Brandon Carty. Now, prior to my trip to America, I was vaguely aware of Unlikely Fandom. I knew it existed, but I'd never really thought about it. However, it was all thanks to another fan project, The Good Old Days, that would change all that. The Good Old Days was a project that Jacob Jarrett's and Robert McGee had been working on for some time, and when it was announced that they would be doing a live premiere at Edison in New Jersey, I was so excited. Like, I really wanted to go to it. I could have just, watched the live stream, but for some reason I was compelled to want to go there in person. But at the same time, I kept telling myself no, I wasn't going to go to America. It wasn't until 12 hours before the show at Edison where I decided to just jump on a plane and fly all the way to America. I had never actually been to New Jersey. Hell, I'd never even been to the American continent before, but I still decided to go. Again, it was so cool getting to meet American Thomas fans for the first time. It honestly felt like a dream to me. I couldn't believe that I was actually there, meeting so many people I had watched and respected for years. And it was at this Edison meetup that I actually met Carty, who was absolutely dumbfounded that this Irish Thomas fan had somehow flown all the way here just to watch The Good Old Days. It was quite, I don't blame him, it was quite bizarre. Since I was in America, Carty asked if I wanted to be interviewed for Unlikely Fandom, and I was very flattered by that. So I did my few interview bits for him, after which I hung out with some of my American Thomas friends and Canadian friends before heading back to Ireland. And that's where I thought the story would end, I didn't even know if I'd make the cut of the documentary. However, that's not where the story ends. So come 2023, I learned that Carty is now premiering An Unlikely Fandom on November 27th in New York. And as soon as I heard this, I thought to myself, oh no, I'm going to have to fly all the way back to America, aren't I? I knew that this was something I wanted to go see live, and I really wanted to meet up with all of my American friends again. However, sadly, also on November 27th, I had exams for college, so unfortunately, I wasn't able to go. I was so heartbroken, not being able to see my American friends again or getting to see the Unlikely Fandom live, It was a real shame. I was really sad about it. I explained my situation to Carty about how I wasn't able to go, and he was very understanding. So as a compromise, we worked out a little deal. Carty would send me an advanced screening of Unlikely Fandom for him to review on my channel, like he did with other YouTube channels. And that way I'd still be able to see Unlikely Fandom, even though I wouldn't be able to be there. It was a shame I wouldn't be able to go to America, but I do thank Carty very much for allowing me to review this. It was a very nice compromise on his part. While I would have loved to have watched this with all of you in New York, I guess this review will have to do. So, with all that background out of the way, let's get into the actual review. So, this is my review of Unlikely Fandom. Wow. I mean, wow. I literally have no words. An Unlikely Fandom is a great documentary. And I'm not just saying that because I got to see it early. I genuinely mean that. This is a really powerful thing. I don't think I've ever seen something so perfectly capture what it is to be a Thomas fan. Like, it touches on so many different topics, from the production of Thomas to how autism relates to Thomas, to the sorts of stigmatization that adult Thomas fans face. In terms of a fan documentary, it really ticks all the boxes. It wasn't even until watching this documentary that I'd realized just how much of myself I had repressed. Like, I had to pause this thing quite a few times while watching it because there were so many instances where someone would mention an experience that they went through, and then I would get like 3 or 4 memories that I'd repressed. Like when my family told me to stop watching Thomas and basically grow up, or when some of my old classmates might have, made fun of me for liking Thomas. There's just so many experiences that the people talk about in the documentary that really hit home for for me personally. I was not expecting to have such an experience like that. It was really quite surprising. I mean, this documentary really reminded me of how much I went through just for liking Thomas the Tank Engine. No joke, I legit had a teacher who wrote down in my report card that I had to stop liking Thomas the Tank Engine. That's how much I was obsessed with the show. That is an actual true story. Like I said before, the documentary also touches upon other topics like autism, which I thought was a really nice touch. For those who don't know, I do have Asperger's syndrome, in case that wasn't obvious enough. And so to see that be touched upon in the documentary there was really, really nice. And to hear other Thomas fans talk about their experiences with autism and Asperger's, I really appreciate that. I really love the multiple perspectives that we get in this. Like, you get perspectives on autism from people who used to watch the show, you know, and then you actually see how that helped out the parents, and then you see how that affected the young children. Like, it's really well crafted. It really did touch upon a lot of perspectives in the fandom. That was another thing I was pleasantly surprised by. The documentary really does do a lot of globetrotting, not just for American Thomas fans, but also for Aussie fans too, and English and Welsh and even Irish Thomas fans. For a documentary made in America, I must say Carty really did a good job at reaching out to other countries. It was also really well structured. The way it flowed from topic to topic really felt natural. Like, it didn't just feel like a bunch of random thoughts and ideas shoved together. No, despite there being no chapters, there is a sort of segment-like quality to the documentary, where the interviewees will talk about a particular topic like meetups or prop collections or autism, and within those topics, all the clips that are used are very relevant. Like, no clip in a documentary feels jarring or out of place. Each clip really serves the particular topic that he or she is talking about. The structure in particular really impressed me. And I must say, getting to see myself inside a documentary where you have actual people and actual show crews and like really important fandom members, the fact that you had so many amazing people in it, and I was there too, you know. I obviously very much appreciate that Carty allowed me to be in this thing. If I were to say one critique, I would say that you can really tell when some things were filmed in 2019 versus post-pandemic. Not in terms of the quality of the camera, and like the camera quality throughout was always very consistent. I'm just talking about the people in the fandom. You can kind of tell that something was filmed in 2019 with like the way that like the fandom members look, especially Luke Ryan. Like, all of his scenes look really old, like especially compared to Luke now. But of course, that's just sort of a byproduct of filming a project over 4 years. Obviously, someone's going to look different in 4 years, you know. So like, that's not really a Carty problem. It's just the fact that things move a lot quicker online than they do in the real world, you know. So I honestly don't blame Carty for that. It's just sort of a consequence of filming over a series of years, you know. But regardless, it is still a wonderfully crafted documentary, really getting at the heart of what it is to be a Thomas fan. It was such an emotional roller coaster. I only wish that I'd recorded some of my reactions when watching it, because there's loads of parts where I was very pleasantly surprised, especially a part at the end, which I won't spoil, but that really hit me home in the emotions. And I also really loved the song used at the end. That was another really nice surprise, and I know for a fact there's going to be loads of really fun edits around that song. And yes, it did get stuck in my head for ages after listening to it. I definitely think this is a documentary that every Thomas fan should see. It really checks all the boxes. I obviously can't go into too much detail because I don't really want to spoil anything, but all I will say is that I think it's one of the best things to come out of the fandom. I might even go as far to say it's one of the best Thomas documentaries. I know that's a weird thing to say since it isn't really about Thomas's production, as in it's more about the fans itself, but just the amount of different people and voices and things going on, it really feels much more diverse than any other documentary we've seen from Thomas. Like, even the 75th anniversary documentary doesn't nearly feel as special or prestigious as this documentary, you know? I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it was made by a fan, since I presume Carty has a better understanding of what fans want to see rather than Mattel, you know, so that's probably why I think this hits harder for me personally. And hey, in the words of Thomas, I'll save a seat for you.
I'll save a seat for you.
So yeah, those are my general thoughts on Unlikely Fandom. Again, I can't go into too many details because I'll just start spoiling things, and I don't want to do that. I want you to watch it and be surprised yourself. I really have nothing else to say other than I hope you all support this thing when it comes out. And I just want to say that I'm really glad that I had this opportunity to appear in the documentary and then review it. And I want to especially thank Carty again for all his support. I had really wanted to make a video about me going over to America and seeing Unlikely Fandom and meeting up with all my American friends. So it's a real shame that I can't do that, but I'm still unbelievably grateful that Carty allowed me to review this. Even if I can't be in America and I can't be with all of you, I still hope that everyone else who goes to an Unlikely Fandom premiere has a really good time, because I know I would be having a good time if I was doing that. But yeah, that's all I have to say, everyone. Thanks for watching, everyone, and if there's one thing you could do today, it's to stay unlikely. Thanks for watching, everyone. Slán Awalia.
When you go to this convention and you see people who like are obsessed with like this train with a face, you know, it's so bizarre, like saying on paper, but like they get you, like they understand you. You don't have to explain yourself. That's what's so great about it.